We're back to the Neil Haley Show and also the Media Giant Effect, and I'm excited to welcome author Zina Hermez. Zina, thanks for stopping by. And what made you want to become a writer? What was the reason to write a book?
I was in a very catastrophic accident when I was 16 years old. I was trying to cross the street on my way to school. I was pedestrian hit by a motor vehicle. So my books are called Not Without God, and they're centered around that story. They also describe how I got to where I am today, how I still became a professional and entered the real world and became an author, things like that.
Oh, wow. So tell us about that experience, how it was to recover from that accident.
Well, chapter one is called The Crash of my first book, Not Without God, A Story of Survival. And I describe a nurse named Mary Kay who was on the helicopter with me. And she just kept rubbing my shoulder and saying, "We're taking you to U of M, Zina. They'll take really good care of you there. Hold on, hold on." And I remember fighting for my life. But I felt this peace. You know, the Bible talks about a peace that surpasses all understanding. I felt the Holy Spirit with me there. Once I arrived to the hospital, I went into an emergency 12 hours of surgery. I had crushed bones, internal bleeding. I couldn't eat more than ice chips or solid food for a month. It was a long recovery process.
It seems like it for sure. And that process, once you recovered, then that gave you a goal in life, right? From the recovery from that accident to do what you need to do, right?
Absolutely. I was still able to make it through school and get my degrees, and I became a teacher and I've taught for 20 years. And I just had my second book released. It's also part of my Not Without God series, but it's called Hope in the Storm. It's also a narrative like my first book, but it's more of a teaching book because I offer journaling sections at the end of each chapter where the reader can write and reflect. So I ask questions like, when was the last time God was really there for you, for example? Or how much time do you spend meditating on the Bible or in prayer? You know, we're told that the word is like a double-edged sword, able to separate joint and marrow, able to separate even the soul and the spirit. It has life-giving medicine. So it's kind of a teaching book where I address different questions like that.
They're very interesting. And did you yeah, are you still teaching?
Not so much now. I'm working more as a caregiver for my elderly mother. She needs some partial help with memory care, cooking, cleaning, things like that.
We've had the conversations of caregiving with a good friend of mine, caregiver Dave Nasani. We talk about, we co-host shows together, and I hear about caregiving, and that's a challenge, right? It's not the easiest thing in the world, and it keeps you going, right?
Yeah, thankfully we have Zoom though, so I am able to do some teaching. And, you know, I have a writers group right now that I started about 4.5 months ago. It's called Writing Because I Can't Not Write. And it's for seasoned and aspiring authors. And it's really cool because we meet on Zoom every Friday and I feature 2 to 3 special featured authors. And people get to come, even aspiring authors get to come and ask them questions. And it's like free writing and publishing knowledge. We take our work for editing and feedback, and you get expert feedback from amazing writers. So yeah, Zoom technology is great for still being out there.
So you kept yourself to teach in another way, but to helping authors now, and you see how important it is because it was not easy writing your books, right? You had to really put some work into it, not just putting it on paper, but putting it all together, selling it, doing all those different things that a lot of writers don't have a resource to go to, right?
Absolutely. Well, as you know, we have to market our own work, right? Whether you go through traditional publishing or self-publishing, you still have to market. So yeah, we talk about marketing, and I'm big in teaching about social media and marketing, and you know, consistency, as you know, is the major way to get your messages out there.
What's the biggest challenge for authors today when you think it comes to marketing? Not we're not going to put you on the spot, but because you talk to so many authors, what do you think it is?
Well, because there's so many voices out there, Neil, as you know, you have millions of voices out there now, and some messages are super powerful and some maybe not so powerful. But I think persistence is key, no matter what your message is. If you're writing about caregiving or if you're a fiction writer, if you write YA, no matter what your message is, you have to be persistent with the marketing and the writing. And, I stayed up many nights into the early morning hours, just writing, hard work and persist, number one.
Now, selling your book, how much do you think it's digital versus, really being creative in selling your books? What have you heard
Well, I
from?
think Yeah, I think digital is big. I would assume that more people order books on Kindle nowadays, but I like the feel of a book. So I still typically order books from Amazon that I can touch and feel, but digital is huge. But again, back to so many people are writing nowadays, but it's not all the greatest material. And even with me, I've been writing for 10 years. I started with e-zine articles like 10 years ago, so it's been a really long process. But even with me, I'm always working on my craft. I always say writing is like an art piece that can never be complete. You can never really perfect your writing, in my opinion.
It's so much work, and I give you guys all the credit in the world. I can come up with ideas. My number one talent's ideation, and I can write, but I can't write where you need an editor. You need somebody to take your knowledge of your ideas and put it on paper. And that's the biggest challenge. Like, I can write a bunch of things, right? But do I want to put it out there unless I use an editor or I contact somebody or say, hey, take a look at it? That's what you're providing in that workshop. But then how much time it takes to continue to develop that craft, depending on what kind of writer you are. When you're writing copy for social media or for paid advertising or for your website or all these different things, it takes so much time to make sure you can put it together to know what voice you should have. How much are you seeing that in your experience of working with authors, but then also looking at what you've done for yourself?
Well, I think that the more you work on it, the more, as they say, practice makes perfect. The more you work on putting your messages out there, the more comfortable you become, because then you just become really accustomed to, okay, this is what I'm going to say. And I'm so comfortable in my voice now that I'm not necessarily worried about what someone else is going to think, or if I had a typo. A typo can always be edited and fixed, but early on in my writing career, yeah, I would really think, oh no, what if I have a typo? That's like so embarrassing. But as you become more comfortable in your voice and who you are, your messages just become more powerful because readers and listeners really pick up on your confidence. But as you may know, your writing is not for everyone. So you can't say my book, my story is for everyone because you know there's a different audience for every story.
Find your audience. And a lot of authors think by just going on podcasts or radio shows, they're going to sell books. Ultimately, at the end of the day, you got to get your own audience. You have to bring your traffic to a store. That's why I'm not a huge proponent. Always say go to Amazon, because then they're going to buy something else. I see this now by
Mm.
posting Amazon affiliate links, and I'm getting tons of clicks for my authors that are coming on. These are top notch ones, but their conversion rate is better sometimes on other things. So that's the also ultimate thing to look at is when you drive them to a store like Amazon, it's better to drive them to a website, because at a website, they're going to learn about you. They're going to understand. They're going to buy from you. And that's great. So Zina, where's the best place people can buy your books, but also learn more about you? Can they go?
You can visit my website, notwithoutgod.net. I blog weekly on my website, sometimes daily, and my book's on there. They can order Not Without God, A Story of Survival, or Not Without God, Hope in the Storm. I can sign and personalize it. My book is also on Amazon, Kindle, Barnes and Nobles, all major places where books are sold.
All right, Zina, we appreciate it. It was great information, but I think it was a great conversation we had to authors. Authors need to listen to what you're talking about and understand and hook up with your workshop. Is that where they can do it on the website to find out about your workshop? And
They can go on Facebook. It's a simple Facebook business page. It's called Writing Because I Can't Not Write, for seasoned and aspiring authors. We feature, I featured Paul Hollis, #1 Amazon bestseller and spy in the thriller genre. I feature author R.D. Trimble, and #1 paranormal romance and YA, multiple award-winning authors. So people come to my meetings and they're like, wow, I get to ask these really cool authors questions and learn from them and, think about how I can get out there. So, yeah, it's really awesome. If anyone wants to look up my group, it's Writing Because I Can't Not Write.
All right, Zena, we appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
You're listening and watching the Neil Haley Show, and we'll be back in just a moment.